don't know why I got this computer. I wasn't doing a lot of work, and then all of a sudden I started doing a lot of work. I'm like, this is so
All right,
slow.
we're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. If everybody can take their seats.
Good for you. Good to see you, Ms. Rice.
Okay, the first thing on our agenda today is the approval of minutes from February 28th.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, next up, we have presentations. The first one is Riverview Drive High Water Grant.
Awesome. That's us. All right. I'm Marcy Hamilton. I'm with the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission. This is Mike Morphy. He's with Evan Marsh, your engineer of record. And on a Teams meeting, we have our other team member, Don Carpenter, who is with Drummond Carpenter. Although he says I don't hear anything. So maybe because I have my mic is off. Hold on. This is a new system, so just give me a minute here if you don't mind. Okay.
While she's working on that, you may recall that not too long ago, we got a signed grant with the state for the high water grant, and part of what it's to do is to fund the study and so forth. And I don't know if either of you were down at the Michigan Works when he showed a presentation on nature-based solutions and so forth.
So Alex has said we were able to secure funding from EGLE, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, to look at Riverview Drive area and address some of the issues. I'm just gonna. So this is just a map of the Benton Harbor area and kind of all your water resources. Obviously, you have the Lake Michigan shoreline, you have the Paw Paw River and the Ship Canal, you have Ox Creek, you have Willow Creek, and then the St. Joe River. So the area in the bolder red is kind of that St. Joe River harbor area that we're looking at along Riverview Drive from Main Street down to Empire, Yorba Park. So that's our area of focus for this project. And why that is this grant was offered by the state to look at impacts from high water levels of Lake Michigan. And so if you remember back when the levels were high, we saw a lot of flooding. That Main Street intersection was underwater, and that had to come in and put in a solution there to keep the water off the road. But all those businesses through there have experienced a lot of flooding. Alex said like he's had developers come to him interested in developing that area, but then they see these standing areas of water and the flooding issues, and they're kind of like, maybe not. So we're thinking if we could develop a project to address some of that we could, create an area where we could see more economic development and some improvements. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike to talk about some of the water level issues real quick.
Hi, Mike Morphy with Evan Marsh. So I'm here to talk about the water levels and how they've affected that area, aside from the experiences that you probably had in that area. The chart that's up on the screen is from the Army Corps of Engineers, and it's the last 100 years or so of water levels on just Lake Michigan. And you can see up there, the gray areas are areas where we've had low water conditions. So the 30s, we had a period of low water, 50s and 60s, and then recently from like 99 to 14 was a really long period of low water. We actually set the all-time low in 2013. You probably remember that. There was dredging going on everywhere. Nobody could get places in boats. We had all kinds of issues. After 2013, though, we saw water levels go all the way up until 2020 when we set a bunch of like monthly records, very close to the all-time high record of 86. So the reason this chart's important is because as humans, we seem to panic when we get to high water, but then the water levels go down and we get comfortable and we think, okay, everything's all right again, but you know they're going to come back up. And that's that's why this grant program was started through Eagle and why we helped the city get some funding to look at this and determine how best to handle Riverview Drive area in particular. So these are two short-term events that can happen in a short period of time, like even a couple of hours. So the image on the left represents just a rain event. So we had no wind that day, and we had a big rainstorm. This is going back in May of 2020. No westerly winds, I should say. We had like 3 inches of rain that fell in Niles, Michigan that day, and it caused the river right here at baseline 94 to go up almost an entire foot just from those 2 days of rain. Now that was no wind, just rain. Then actually about a week earlier, there was a wind event with no rain. So we had wind coming from Lake Michigan from the west-southwest direction, almost pushing Lake Michigan up against this side of the lake. So as the river's flowing down, it kind of had a damming effect where it wouldn't let that water get out. So no rain, but just wind. And again, we saw about a foot rise in water levels. So worst case scenario, if you can imagine this, we're at record high water levels like we were in 2020. And then both these things happen the same day. So that's kind of the case. There's also some predictions out there. Canadian study predicted that water levels on Lake Michigan would exceed our record high by a foot by 2040. So it's wise to be thinking about these things, even if we're not seeing high water today. It will come back, and it might be worse than we've experienced before. So that's the reason for this whole thing, and hopefully we can find the right solutions for that area.
Great. Thanks, Mike. He's our expert on Lake Michigan water levels and coastal engineering. So he's an important part of the team. And so what we're working to do with this funding is go and look at this area and look at opportunities of what we can do to improve it, to address the flooding issues and the high water issues, but also, how can we improve public access, recreation. I know people like to fish along there, so that's very important. We have the new kayak launch, there's the DNR boat launch, there's Yarborough Park. So how can we expand on that public access and recreation element? How do we manage the stormwater better? How do we create better habitat for fish along the shoreline and opportunities to access that? And then again, that redevelopment opportunity, it's like Alex said, we need to really create an environment where people feel safe investing in down there and building the city's tax base. It's the riverfront, waterfront property. You're, lucky to have such a wonderful asset. So let's make it so we can capitalize on it and you can build your tax base back up. So we're going to be working to develop kind of a concept level design of that corridor of Riverview Drive from Main Street to Empire. We want to focus on nature-based solutions. You hear me talk a lot about that because one of my big passions is water quality and keeping our water clean. And water is life, right? We all need clean water. So as many of you know, we've done a lot of these projects out in the township, out in the mall area. There's the Meyer Rain Garden. There's a rain garden out at Whiteman's. Sorry, Evan Marsh, your competitor's place. They've got a nice rain garden. So this is a way to deal with stormwater in a more natural way and to clean it and to also create habitat for pollinators and birds and things like that. And also just to make it look nicer. Like when you go out there, there's so much concrete and it's just kind of not very nice looking. It's like you go out there because you have to, because that's where everything's at. But then you look around and it's like, wouldn't it be nicer if it's greener and prettier? So there's those benefits too that we want to bring to this project. So like I said, we want to address this flooding and stormwater runoff in a sustainable manner. We're not starting from scratch here. There have been several studies and visions kind of created over the years for different purposes. Most recently was your master plan. And so there's some information there that we're going to look at. But we're going to go all the way back to some studies that were done in 2015 and everything in between. And I just put up here, we just have here just kind of some of these visions that have been created. This was with the harbor study that was done back in like 2018 or so. If any of you were involved in that, there was a bunch of public meetings and charrettes that were held, and people came and told, you know, what they envisioned for that Riverview Drive area. So this is just some of the, you know, that boardwalk and fishing areas is important to people. So we've got some of this information. Abbott Marsh actually did a concept back in 2019 that had, you know, public areas along the riverfront where, you know, you could have gatherings or maybe concerts, plazas, you know, a nicer walkway along the riverfront. You know, think about other communities and how they capitalize on those assets. And we're trying to figure out how we can do that for Benton Harbor. This one was done by Cornerstone Alliance back in 2019 with Whiteman. For us, for the natural solution, this is a little bit hard edge. We'd like to see more natural shorelines to help with the fish habitat. So again, you know, an idea, but not really quite the nature-based solutions we're looking for. But back in 2015, there were some studies looking at wetlands and how can we make this area look, you know, more natural and more friendly to the fish and environment. And so we're going to kind of pull all those together. And so we're not starting from scratch. But here's, you know, these nice boardwalks and natural areas is kind of where we're going. But the cool thing is we have all that background data. We're actually, those are just kind of pretty pictures that were drawn, right? And didn't really go in depth to look at the flooding issues. So with this grant, we're going to be able to go out and collect some data on the ground, like the topography, where is the water going, looking at the soils, where can water be infiltrated, or where can we use some of these natural solutions to deal with the stormwater. So we're going to get that information. So then we have that base of information. And then we'll start meeting with landowners and stakeholders and community members and saying, you know, here's some concepts that we could, you know, shoot for based on the data that we've collected and how we can handle some of the stormwater and flooding and develop a vision that incorporates these natural solutions as much as possible. We may need some, you know, more man-made structures to deal some with it, but you know, where we can use the nature-based, we will. So, so we'll develop those concepts with feedback from the community. Then we'll go in and kind of phase out the project or the concepts, and we'll pick kind of one priority project, and we're going to develop 90% engineering plans and start securing permits to set us up to write grants to do implementation. So that's kind of what this grant does for you. It gets you that, you know, concrete vision, and then gives you a project that is ready to be put out in front of funders and says, you know, we want to do these improvements to make this area more viable in the future for development and for recreation and public access. So that's just a quick overview of what we have planned. I don't know if there's any questions or anything, or.
What is the timeline for
Yeah.
design concept?
So we are on a timeline that we're just, like I said, kicking this off. We announced it Alex mentioned we were at Michigan Works for that green infrastructure meeting a couple of weeks ago. We announced it. And then here tonight, this is really kind of the kickoff, the official kickoff. So we're going to be doing this work through about June of 2025. So it takes time. We want to take the time to have meetings and meet with people and get the input that we need.
Yes, one of my questions along the riverfront on Riverview Drive from Main to Yarborough Park. Are there three separate entities as far as you would say stakeholders like the county and, you know, the boat launch dock is not the cities?
It's
We
DNR.
have to collaborate, partnership goals, right?
Yep. So, we've already looked at the parcels and we're going a few blocks in off of Riverview Drive, that whole area. And we've got a landowner list from all the parcel maps. And we did invite all of those folks to the meeting that we had at Michigan Works for the green infrastructure. And actually a few of them did come. But yeah, we're going to be reaching out to all those landowners in kind of that whole area.
Kind of accepted fairly,
What's that?
with the other, stakeholders, was it kind of accepted with the hurrah?
Well, we don't know yet. The ones that came to the meeting, they were just there, listened, and were learning about nature-based solutions. And Don Carpenter, who is with us remotely tonight, who is one of the other consultants on this, he's done a lot of work in communities around the state of Michigan and doing these nature-based solutions to deal with high water levels and flooding. And so that meeting back a couple of weeks ago, he gave a lot of examples of what other communities have done. So that was just a meeting to show, to kind of showcase those other communities and projects and how they look, how they function, and how they work, and they are successful in dealing with some of these issues. And so everybody was there, enjoyed the presentation, and it was all positive feedback that we heard. Richard was there, I know.
And that presentation is a tool.
Yes, we could share that with everybody, with you guys for sure. Alex was there, and yeah, it was a great thing. So we hope to have the cooperation of the landowners, and hopefully together I'll build a common vision is the goal.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions from the audience? Commissioner Henry?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start with the process. How was this job let out? RFP, how was it? We've got a contractor and I don't remember the process, and I like to stay abreast of it.
So for this grant, we're just using your engineer of record, Avon Marsh, for the data collection and engineering piece. And then Don Carpenter was brought in. He's an expert in coastal and green infrastructure projects throughout the state, and often works with the state of Michigan, the Eagle Environment, Great Lakes and Energy as a contractor to do these types of projects.
So Southwest actually wrote the grant.
I wrote the grant, and I'm not getting any money from this grant. None.
Was $314,000, and this LLC is going to get $80,000. Does that mean the engineering concept? No, I'll say that word concept really puts a lot of salt in my mouth when I think about what happened when the other concept came through Benton Harbor. But I'll definitely be watching the concept, and I know now that it's flowing and it'll change in a heartbeat. But is that to say that the $80,000 for the LLC consultant, who's going to be doing very important work by getting what I feel is natural remedies for the problem, and that's really exciting to me. But is that to say that Avamarch will be getting the bulk of that $314,000?
Yeah, and other contractors too, like to do soil borings, they'll be paying contractor to do that. But then, yeah, their team will be paid to go out and do the topo surveys that we need to do the design work. And then they're going to work in collaboration with Drummond Carpenter to develop the concept based on community input, and then do the actual engineering design. They'll do it as a team effort.
And the set of plans that are going to result for the first phase of this project would have all the infrastructure in it, including, stormwater, sanitary water systems that exist now, may or may not need to be relocated as part of the project. The roadway design, shoreline design, and all those different pieces would be part of that plan set. Ideally, we can find a grant that's then going to fund construction after that, and we can get things built. But this grant gets you right to that doorstep of being able to seek that.
Okay, All right, I just wanted to make sure that I understood who wrote the grant and who was getting the money. Cause that means I know who to hold accountable. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Oh,
Let
sir.
me help a little bit. The person I guess to be held accountable is me. I'm responsible for representing you, the city, with all of the entities that are involved in this. This is a part of a long-term process that is all aimed at increasing the value and use of our waterfront along Riverview Drive. That's been a goal for many years. As a matter of fact, I can recall in the 80s, we were looking at the problem there as we talked about trying to develop. And if you drive up Riverview, whenever the water's high, you don't have to be a scientist to do it. You can look behind the old inner city bank building, that entire parking lot back there just floods. It's a big pool of water. As a matter of fact, when they had the last River Fest down there, you have to go all the way around that big pool of water in order to park if you parked on that lot. Right next door to the All Phase building in the back there. It almost looks like a rice paddy back there when it gets, it just, water comes up and everything in there is flooded. Fortunately, the baseball field on the other side is a little higher, so it doesn't come there. But as recently as week before last, I had a developer here wanting to find a location to build an office building. And he was looking at the All Phase site. And you can look, even though it's dry, and you can tell where it's been water standing, by the growth and stuff there. So ultimately, to improve the city's development potential along Riverview Drive, this is an important piece. As I said, back in the 80s, we were looking at that, and we're looking at Miller's Pond as a means by which we might somehow deepen it, have it pull the water, drain the water into it, and set up some kind of pumping situation. But we realized that it would just be pumping it back into where it would just circle and come right back in again. So that never went anywhere at the time. But this has some real potential for us. So we worked on submitting this and getting it into Eagle so we could get funded to get this done. And if you were down at Michigan Works and looked at some of the things that Mr. Carpenter and Drummond have done up in the northern part of the state, it has some real potential for us, because if it serves a purpose of reducing that water table, beautifying that area, making that property more developable, we're winning all the way around. As a matter of fact, I've made a point of sharing with Whirlpool while they're getting ready to work on Yarborough Park what we're doing here, so that none of this gets in each other's way, that it all coordinates and works together. And as a result of all of it, the city wins. We would never have the money to be able to do this stuff ourselves. And these grants help.
One day. It's gonna come.
All right, point of order. Have you finished, Mr. Lewis? Was there any other final questions? Commissioner Henry?
I would request that those previous 18, 16, and whatever, if they would be shared with us so we could be on the same page as everyone else. It seems like sometimes the process don't happen for us, but I'm asking for through the chair and Ms. Hamilton.
And that's something we
Yeah.
can,
Yeah, Ms. Warner, I can, what I can work on is setting up a project website. All the harbor stuff is available online on that stuff, but there's probably not a place where all those exist. So I can set up a project website that has all of those in one place for you, or links to all those, and then share that back with you guys. Okay? Does that sound good?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Commissioner
To the chair, I just want to know, how much was the grant? I didn't see it.
314,500.
Mr. Duncan?
Yeah, well, will any of this have something to do with the dredging
We-
down on the end of
No,
nothing?
No.
Okay, that's my first.
it would be nice if that material could be used, but
That's what
I'm
I
guessing
was-
that when they sample, they won't be able to use that for fill. But we'll see.
Commissioner,
Yes, the runoff that because of the elevation of the way the land runs, where the water is setting for, is because of the type of the soil that doesn't absorb the water? Or is it because of, that there's a slope there in that area?
It's part of the things that we're gonna find out, but I think it's a combination of those things. I think as part of a river floodplain, it's probably some hydric soil there, meaning it is always wet when the water table's up. There's also probably areas that have been filled historically that don't absorb anything anymore. And then the elevation of it relative to the river, of course, is low. So when you're at high water level, that ground is saturated, and then when it rains, that water doesn't really have anywhere to go except hang out in the spots where you don't want it to hang out.
Well, along most of, all of that area, on up to the street they call Gray, all along there, seem to be, a water table there, along that area. There's trees and other vegetation that grows there, but you can see that it's not really, the soil is really, damaged. It's not really good for growth.
Yeah.
So they will have some engineering firm to come in, evaluate that, and probably dig below and sort of work with the underground absorption of the soil.
Yeah, it would be really hard to completely change the soil there, but what we're gonna try to do with these nature-based solutions is be more deliberate about where do we want human use of areas and where can we allow nature to do its job with that water. So that might mean we're not changing everywhere to be better about handling water. It might mean we have focal areas where we're gonna try to bring that water to, in other areas, we're gonna try to get it away from as part of the project.
And as for an example, like out at the Meyer property, we took
Yes,
out
I saw
that,
yes.
yeah, we took out that parking lot there, and then dug a big hole,
Mhm.
and we brought in a bunch of amended soil to put in there because
Right.
the soil was really bad there too. And to get the plants to grow and the trees to grow, we had to bring in a bunch of new soil to put down there so that we would have at least some soil medium to help with the plant growth so they could do their jobs of uptaking the water. So
Right.
so
But I've
there's
seen a lot of times
ways.
they use the tubing to absorb water, catch it here and take it, disperse it somewhere else.
Right, and that's maybe something we need to do to find those areas where they're most suitable to handle the water.
Mr. Rayworth, did you?
I was just gonna say, most of that area along there is the result of dredging of the river to create that land. So it's originally dredging. If they would have dredged another year, we wouldn't have this problem. We'd be above water level by now. But laws these days, we can't use the soil in the same way we did. And it's always gonna be low. If we can reduce the runoff to help that, but the river level is gonna change on its own. We can't control it, so we just have to learn how to tame
Right.
or work with it.
Exactly.
It also once upon a time was a landfill.
Not a laughing thing.
You go far enough back and you find those. I mean, most of our soil around here is sandy anyway and very permeable where water can move up, down, sideways any way it want to. But then when you add other components, like I said, that having been a landfill for a lot of years, there's no telling what all you have to deal with, and so it needs to be studied to find out.
Okay, so one more comment, Mr. Duncan?
Yeah, I've got to be short too. It was all systematic. That it turned into a landfill, as you called it. And if it wasn't for the citizens, then I'm sure we got people who were gonna contest to it.
it would have been a dump if the citizens hadn't taken care of that area. So we haven't forgotten. We haven't forgotten when they came and said they were going to dredge that area. It was all systematically rushing us up off the river for whatever reason they had. But the river was supposed to be dug 6 feet deep during that last, whatever you call it, excavation or dredging. And it never got anywhere as close. And that's when all of that water started really coming up like up to the high school back that way, coming out in front of Tackle Haven and all of that. And it was, the citizens paid a lot of money to get that work done, and it gives you guys another chance to go down there and make some more money. So I know you have nothing to do with that. You're on the receiving end, but when it comes to interfering with fishing, that was pretty much the end when they came and dredged, because where's the fish now? So they're here now, but I'm saying during that time. So you guys have made pretty much the same amount. It's another day in time now, so you'll make a lot more this time than you did that time.
If I might ask a question, is Don waiting to come on with us?
He's on, I think he can hear us, but we don't have him on speaker right now.
Okay, I was wondering if he was gonna do a presentation.
Nope, that's all. We just wanted to give a brief overview.
I know I wasn't gonna get an answer anyway.
I was curious, the dredging you're referring to, were you referring to the dredging that happened roughly 10 years ago or prior to that
On the
sometime?
river, yeah,
10
Okay,
years ago.
it was 10 years ago,
at low water, okay.
yeah.
We watched it.
Well, you
And the
know,
water
if I'm-
point was the water never got to be anywhere close to 6 feet. You could walk across 4.5 feet, something like that. It's never gotten any deeper until it rains and the river and the lake comes back our way,
Mhm.
and then you got the problem.
Thank
And
you,
that's,
Mr.
that's
Duncan.
the real picture. You have to have been there to know what I'm talking about. But I tried to paint the picture for you best I could.
Thanks, Mr. Duncan. Mr. Little, you want to address?
I just wanted to make a closing remark on that, and that is that, you know, when you talk about history, it depends on how far back you go. You gotta recognize throughout this country, many years ago, that's what they did with rivers. They used them as dumps, landfills, and poured stuff into them and whatnot. This country's been in the last 100 years trying to clean up behind the messes it made back in the early 1900s and late 1800s. That's what they did with rivers, you know?
My point was, it was all intentional, and that's why it's the way it is, that's why people's attitudes are the way they are. And then you have higher ups with kind of downplay it like it was fun, or they made enough money during that day and time. But my concern is totally about the citizens. It's not about you guys or anything else. I like the program that you're coming with, but I just feel like you need to really get with the citizens to let them plan our area.
All right, thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We can move on. Unless you guys have anything else. So next we have walking routes.
I have it on mine.
Were we finished?
Yeah, I've got her presentation on my computer, so I'm just helping her out.
All right.
Cool. So,
All right, you have the floor.
hi, everybody. I'm Kiefer Ann Horn Williams. I'm an entrepreneur here in the area. I own the Neon Movement Wellness Center, and me and James Gunther, we have come up with, and James Gunther and I have come up with a program called City Walk. And this program is going to help our city in a number of ways. What is City Walk? City Walk is a safe preset public routes marked with mild and or half-mile signs. So these signs are going to be searchable online. You'll get a QR code, and you'll have actual routes that you can walk, and you feel safe with them. We have 2 routes already planned. One is called the River Route. It's a downtown route, and then we also have a Tiger Route. Of course, you got to have the tigers. And we're working on an 84 route, which includes Gene Clark Park, and it's going to be like a beach type route. All of these routes have landmarks and beaches included, and they're going to be useful to individuals, groups, and classes. And we're going to use it for our tourists and attract tourists and get our natives and our newer residents to use this.
There you go.
All right, so the river route, which is the first one, is going to be downtown. It starts, it's going to begin and end at Morton Park, and the parks on the route are Morton Park, Dwight P. Mitchell, Fisherman's Park, Charles Yarborough, and Hall Park. And our Tiger Route, as you see, is about a little bit over 5 miles, and it begins and ends at Charles Yarborough Park. You can go to the next slide. All right, so here's just a brief picture of the river route. As you see, it starts at, is that Morton Park? Morton Park, and goes down Main Street and comes up Riverview, and then it comes back up Riverview, and then it goes up, what is that? Britain. And we make a few turns and twists. You can go to the next one. And then here's our Tiger Route. This Tiger Route runs through the middle of the city. So we wanted to really make sure that there was something for the inner city. We always have something for downtown, but we want to make sure that we include the inner city always to make sure that people know that there's going to be a safe preset route inside the city as well. And then here's our route that we're working on right now, the 84 route. This has actually been created by the class of 84, Benton Harbor's class of 84. Their runners created this route. So the track and field people, the ones that participated in track and field, they wanted to do something to get health and fitness back on the minds of people. All right, you can go to the next one. All right, so the benefits of the City Walk will be to promote health and wellness. We're going to promote positivity and boost community morale, help drive the economy. We're going to create meeting spots. This is free marketing for the city. So these signs will be posted up in their places, and it will be something that tourists can look at online. They can say, hey, what's there to do in Benton Harbor? And this will be on the list of things to do in Benton Harbor. And a lot of our tourists, many of them like to exercise. Many of them like to take care of themselves, as we all should. So I just think that it's going to be a great thing. It's going to highlight our parks, and it's going to highlight the Fitness Core project, which I'm very excited to see happen soon. And it's going to help cultivate the appreciation of our parks, which is going to affect the cleanliness of our city. And I just really feel like that's going to help our city become even more beautiful. All right, so the cost. There's no cost to the city at all. There's no cost to the citizens. We just need an estimate from the city, and we're going to work with Public Works to get that estimate, and then we're going to get funding to pay for it. So, and then all we need after that is someone to touch a button that works for the city and add it to the website. Next slide. All right. How soon do we need this to be passed by the city? We need this to be passed as soon as possible. And why so soon? Because we want to start getting rid of seasonal depression. I'm not sure about you, but staying in the house all winter long, living in Michigan, you can get a little down. And having something that you can just do without anything. This is literally an activity that doesn't require anything. So just getting rid of seasonal depression, getting some sun and things like that, and making it attractive for the citizens to come outside and just do something that they don't feel like they have to pay for. Then the next thing is we just want to get ready for the market season. We want to get ready for the market season. We want to be ready for summer. We want to be ready for the PGA, and we want our tourists to be able to participate in this as soon as possible. So before the summer hits. So we're looking for a target of around before May, because we want to be ready for the PGA.
That's the last one.
So we're there at the early stages now of laying this out. We're gonna try to work on coming up with some kind of attractive little signs that will fit within what already is existing, but will sort of serve as milestones for people who start. You know, you may start off on this whole 5 mile thing, but by the time you get down to the one that says 1.5 mile, you might be ready to turn around until you get used to it. But we see this as being in keeping with the concept in our master plan, where we talked about connecting parks and so forth together. This will help to do that. As you said, there'll be no cost to people to just get out and utilize it. Whole families can go walking together or whatever. And we think as people come into the community and start to see things, this is just one more item that will add to the attraction and the rebirth of our city and where we're trying to go. So we're gonna work with them and see if we can pull this together. And as I mentioned to them, ultimately, we want to revisit the whole trails plan. We've got trails going out through part of the Harbor Shores area. We're building on a trail down here, Ox Creek, and all of this can get connected up, where people can just make choices. Today, maybe I want to go this way. Today, I may want to do different, but just take advantage of the community and fresh air and sunshine.
Yes, our city is really beautiful. Ben Harbor is a beautiful city. We want to just add to the attraction of the place. We want to add to the beauty and just get people outside, because healthier people make healthier decisions. People that get more oxygen make healthier decisions. You know, obviously we know that, and that impacts the workforce as well, and that it impacts the economy of the city. You know, so if everybody is getting money, can you imagine people walking down the street and they're like, oh, that business. So then people are actually going to these businesses, shopping and things like that. And it's just going to be I just think it's going to be a really, really great thing for the city.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right, do you have any questions?
No, just one statement. It's, last night I was here at the forum and we were talking about the downtown development area. And looking at that, it's sort of on Brighton, right there with the path that we were talking about, getting people to walk and historical signs and markers. So saying that, maybe it's a possibility we can collaborate and help get those sign markers up. But we had Chuck Yeager here, who was going to help us find some more landmarks that a lot of us don't even know are here, because of demolitions, whatever. There's a lot of landmarks here in the city. We just don't know. So yes, that's excellent.
In fact, I suggested to them that we're gonna have them meet with the DDA so
Yes, that's
that
awesome.
they're all bought into a DDA arts district. All of it needs to be integrated.
Correct.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, we talked about that as well. So we want to make sure that everybody's involved, you know, so that they can know what's going on. And then that way, as it's happening, we can all utilize it. Everybody can utilize it, the whole city.
What about sidewalk conditions? You mentioned you're gonna get funding, so if there's sections of that where the sidewalks are not in good condition, would that funding cover that piece?
What do you mean as far as covering?
So I'm saying if you're walking down a sidewalk that's within your trail, if the sidewalk is not in good condition, is that gonna be fixed, or will the citizens just?
No, that will not be fixed, because say for instance, like what I'm doing right now, I'm doing a Benton Harbor Walk Fit Club. So we started this club and we walk on the conditions that there are, you know, basically we're just walking just for exercise, you know, and these things will not probably be more than likely put down into our concrete. They might be attached to something depending on what we come up with the Public Works,
Okay.
you know, so we'll plan with them.
And if we do find areas of sidewalk that are badly damaged and perhaps presents a threat to people trying to do anything in the city, will have to see to it that our sidewalk regulations are enforced and that they are repaired,
Okay.
either with or without.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcy, for helping out there.
No problem.
so much.
No problem.
We're gonna go ahead and move on to community and economic development. First up is our resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into an agreement with Drummond Carpenter. And it's in our packet. You wanna speak to that, Mr. Little?
Certainly. I have received a proposal from Drummond Carpenter and I'm going over it, working with them to put together an agreement that is in concert with just what we've been talking about and with the grant agreement that we received from Eagle so that they'll be able to get started on doing this right away. Because of that, ordinarily it would probably just have executed, but because of the nature of this, I want to be sure everybody's up to speed on what's going on here, why, and that type of thing. The grant itself, when Marcy put it together and we talked as that was being done, it's not just one person, it's a group of us all working on it. It incorporates the concepts that we'll be following and going after here to do this. So I just wanted this opportunity to make sure everybody knew exactly what it's about, where we're trying to go, why we're trying to get there, and just move forward with it. The funding is there, it doesn't cost the city any money, but we get the benefit.
So I move that we move it forward.
So moved.
Okay, next up, we have, excuse me, a resolution authorizing the participation and payment of $10,000 from the city's ARPA funds toward the cost of dredging the St. Joe River.
Yes, we were approached a couple of weeks ago, maybe even 3, by the county, advising us that they had determined that the shoaling and silting of the river is such that the depth in the St. Joe River where boats normally go, from Tackle Haven back up to about Empire Avenue, blocking our marina boat launch there. Same thing, access into and out of St. Joe's launch and on further up. Is such that they need to dredge it. The county worked up some numbers and estimated that it would cost a minimum of about $50,000 to do that dredging. St. Joe Township, St. Joe City, the county, and us, we're the direct beneficiaries of that traffic through there. And they've asked that we participate in the cost of the dredging. And I strongly recommend that we do that. I believe St. Joe Township is putting like $15,000. I'm not sure exactly what St. Joe City's contribution is, but I've explained to them that our financial situation is such that we just have to do the best we can. We can't necessarily match those amounts. So I'm recommending that we use $10,000 of ARPA money for the purpose of participating in that.
And I move that we push it forward.
Agreed.
Okay. Next on our agenda, oh, sorry. Commissioner Henry.
Thank you. My question is ARPA money funding. We have certain criteria that ARPA money can be spent for. Can you verify the reasoning and that they go along with the requirement for ARPA money?
We will do that. As a matter of fact, we've asked Rhonda to review on that. We'll make sure that it does.
Was there anything else? Any other questions on that piece? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. Parks and Rec. I don't think anyone's here. Okay.
First of all, I'd like to say, as far as the, I don't know, ran it a couple of times. Do I necessarily, on the block party, the Ben Harbor block party, which for the last 2 years was given right after the parade. Sort of came up with the concept sort of as a after parade event. It's like when the parade is over, 2, 3 o'clock, there's nothing to do. You just had people running around, so we created the block party. On this one, there's a concert giving. I think it'll be maybe 2 weeks after May 11th is the parade. So I'm gonna say maybe 2 weeks later. So instead of giving a concert this time, give Benton Harbor just a block dance party. Along with that will be 3 DJs. And just a dance party, we will have certain people. Would love to have Marcy, everybody come up, just kind of use it sort of, and you can get back with me, it's kind of an idea. You can kind of use it sort of a public hearing or a public info, if we can have different projects out there, people with their own table or tents or however, and have people around and collect some information. I believe this would help on a lot of things as far as what the residents want to know or even need to know, but might not have the time to make it to a public hearing. Of course, we know you have the room. That's hard. I mean, even if we had a public hearing here, I asked the question of the last night of Group P. You know how many chairs in the city hall? Anybody know right now without looking?
28.
28. So if you gave a public hearing, how many people you can get in? 28. So I'm just thinking this would be a good time to have that information out. Here's my question is it necessary, since this is given by the parks, it's no cost to the city, it's fully sponsored, do we necessarily have to do a resolution? Because the first time I gave it, it was considered a park program event. And so was the second. Because it's given by the park, it's just no pay.
I don't think a resolution is absolutely necessary, but it might be a good idea. We'll put one together for it. But I'd like to also mention, I believe it's May 22nd, that the free concert that Whirlpool typically, Harbor Shores puts on when we have the PGA will be taking place. And I know Gerald Albright is one of the people that will be performing. So will from LTD,
Jeffrey
Osborne. Yeah, it
Kim
should be a
Scott.
really, you know who the other one is?
Kim Scott.
Okay. Yeah, so it should be a really nice free concert that everybody will be invited to. I wanted to also, in regard to the parks, just kind of share with you that I am, as quickly as I can, because of what the weather seems to be going to do, trying to get ourselves together in terms of preparation for dealing with the grass cutting and so forth, so that it doesn't get ahead of us. Because it looks like we may have an early spring, and whether spring or not, the grass is still growing, so it'll be weed before long. While this city can ill afford to spend $300,000 or $400,000 a year cutting grass, it's going to be necessary. And I'm going through some specs now. A few weeks ago, the gentleman that comes down from Grand Rapids talks about the cemetery, volunteered to help with putting some specs together. I called him up and told him I'm not opposed to accepting help, put them together and send it to me. I got what he sent me and I'm working through it, and we're gonna put some specs together to go out for bid for the initial phase of maintaining and cutting the grass and so forth. But we're gonna make sure it includes in there that they don't just ride on mowers and walk away. They're gonna have to get weeders and get out and clean weeds away from around these trees and fences and sidewalks and whatnot and make these parks look good. Same thing with these neighborhoods and so forth. And put a clause in them that will allow us to terminate the contracts early if we can get put together what I'd like to do for a more longer-term solution for maintaining these parks and so forth. But I just wanted to share that. We are working on that. I'll also just go ahead and take the opportunity to mention the Ox Creek project that's moving ahead too. We've been communicating back and forth with the feds in terms of what they're requiring from us, environmental reviews and whatnot. And we're getting set to finally really get the project launched and go forward. A lot of what they call soft cost stuff is involved in the front end of it, design work, some work with the attorneys and the legal side of it, working and cooperating with the drain commissioner and other stuff. But we hope to move it to the point where before the year's out, we can start seeing some physical improvements down there in that area.
Another one is in June 10th. June 10th, we will have Youth Works here, and I can't remember exactly what year, maybe Commissioner Henry might remember. We painted the whole concession stand and shower rooms at Gene Clark Park. With them coming and I talked to them, we would like to do that again, to paint it. You say no?
It needs repair. Paint won't do it.
Well, I mean, you got certain parts where paint will. I mean, the outside, if it's not going to be repaired, I wouldn't want to leave it like it is.
We're reviewing the situation at Gene Clark Park now and preparing to make some improvements here before the PGA gets started.
So I will have them in parks, so you will see Youth Works in different parks cleaning. Question always comes up, why I don't see them mowing? The rules for that, even here in Ben Harbor, even for our Ben Harbor Youth that Works, at a certain age, you're not allowed to use certain tools, such as lawnmowers, riding lawnmowers, weed whackers. Youth Works has this strange rule, but they had it last year. They could use a gas edger, but they couldn't use an electrical one. And I'm kind of like, what? I think you're safer with the electrical, but those are just the rules. So if anybody see Youth Works out and they're not mowing or they're not weed whacking, it's because of those rules. And if you see our youth working and you see some of them with a shovel and a broom and not a weed whacker, that's the rule. So if anybody asks you that, explain that to them. It's not our rule. It's not ours. That's been a rule as long as I can remember. Even when I was working with youth in Chicago, it was the same rule. It was a little different. You had to be in high school. So it's not on us. Other than that, you'll see them in the park. There will be some other events announced later and hopefully put on the schedule. Commissioner Kennard?
I'd like to see the youth actually having an instructor, regardless to what tool they use, to actually teach them how to use it. So many times you see them with the phone, walking, dragging a rake or something. We want to see them actually doing that work. So they have to have an instructor there to step by step to teach them how to use the tool and see that they use it. I have walked and I drove and seen them just walking, dragging them, you know. We've got to keep them focused.
Now, here's the problem with that. When we look for instructors, we look for some, and you have some say, I don't want to work with kids.
Why
And then
haven't-
as far as instructing them on how to use those tools, we can't even instruct them if they're not old enough. So that's why you'll see some with brooms and rakes and shovels only, because they're not old enough to use those tools. Now, we do have some that do use those tools. 'Cause I gave it to them, I go to Lowe's every year and make sure we have some. Now, as far as, I don't know, you gotta have enough instructors to make sure everybody's working when you're talking about 100 kids.
Let me also add something to it. All of these programs are different. I'm sure the ones that you're talking about probably are our youth, and they're different ages, mostly younger kids, as he said, who cannot work with power tools and that kind of thing. But more to the point, we get these programs with whatever funding they give us, and if they don't give us money, we get some people to sort of watch over or supervise, so to speak, but they're not necessarily qualified to instruct. And that's not a part of the plan, although I wish it were. Now, the other group, Youth Works, that Jerry is mentioning, they come in here every year from up around, I think, Minnesota someplace, and they put in a lot of free time helping to do a lot of things in this city. And those kids work hard, they do. When they finish a day, they're worn out, they take showers, go home, and go to where they're staying, and then back out the next day and at it again. I would ask all of us, as we see these young people who come into our community to do good for us, let's be friendly to them, smile at them, let them know we appreciate them being here, and let's do the same with our youth, because kids need reinforcement. They need to feel like they're appreciated and wanted and so forth. And I think that's something that all of us can do.
Especially when you're seeing youth, and here was a big problem last year. In fact, me and Coach Sterling had to intervene a couple of times. We had some kids doing some weed whacking down behind the post office. Lady pulls up, I'm gonna get you some water. She comes back with 2 bottles of water, and we got like 20 kids out there. Now, the other kids were asking for water, so it wasn't rude. And she said, oh no, I just know them too. So another incident, we have adults. Here's one we had to intervene, and I'm glad we didn't have to call 911. We had adults pull up, throw out their Burger King trash where a kid had just cleaned up and was maybe right there where the city turkey is. He pulled up behind and threw out the garbage. Grown people, not a kid in the car. So when I went over there to talk to him, he wants to start a ruckus, kids ain't about nothing, blah, 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 blah. So, and I'm saying that to say this. Instead of us, and I'm talking about the public, hammering about what the kids are not doing, let's hammer on us adults on how much are we helping those kids. Because think about it, if you're out in your yard, and you mowing it, you getting all the paper up, somebody pulls up and just throw a bag of trash out there, what are you gonna do?
Go
Ask
pick
yourself
it
that
up.
question.
Go pick it up. put it
You
in
ain't gonna say
trash.
nothing.
I didn't
That's
finish.
right.
You ain't gonna say nothing. If you're gonna throw trash, you ain't gonna say nothing.
Go pick it up and put it in the trash can. What you gonna say to them?
Get the license plate,
Well,
call the
you can't-
police.
I don't wanna go back and forth with that one, so.
You don't be trying to raise nobody else's kids. You just gonna do it yourself.
I wasn't
That's
speaking
what
in
I said.
reference to the children that come in. They come to my garden
Yeah, I know. I was just putting this out there
and they
publicly.
weed.
Yeah, I was just putting
And
it out
they
publicly.
help so much. I mean, it's a blessing to have those children. But I'm talking about, I've seen some of our children that are supposed to be supervised, just looking on their phones, dragging us rake. You know I'm telling the truth. Let's not just try to dress it up. But, and adults do, because anybody will tell you, know me. No, I've swept streets for years. I've grown old, sweeping, picking up and everything. Now I'm not able to bend and pick up like I used to. But I work on a regular job and sweep the streets all summer long. Down here, Dollar Ride, plant flowers and work. Here at the police station, put flowers in there, rake and clean. I did my part as a resident and be an example for these children. So I think that when people are working with these children, impress upon them to stay focused. We have no phones because sometimes phones is a distraction. Keep your mind focused on what you're doing, but also show them how to use the tool. If they're not using electrical tools and stuff like that, they're not old enough. But the tools that are not power tools, teach them how to rake and how to use that shovel. That's the only thing I'm saying. I'm not saying it as a smack in the face, but have some people to reinforce that these children stay focused.
Mr.
Thank you
Mayor,
very
you're not
much.
saying the thing that you are. I agree with you. And we try to do that. That's one reason we keep changing supervisors, because when you're talking to them about doing it, everybody's gonna do everything, but when you get out there, they don't. Some people are even scared of the kids and, tell them, hey, kid's sitting there on the phone when he's supposed to be working. Why don't you say something to him? Well, I don't, we don't need that. So we just keep working at it, but you're absolutely right.
There'd be a lot
Thank you
of
very much, and just be a reminder to the kids.
So we have Mr. Ray.
Sorry to jump in there, but there would be a lot of benefit by merging some of our local kids with that group from Minnesota. Those guys have fun and work hard. And, it's, anybody would try to jump in and help them. I spent a lot of time with them while they were here. And getting to know the world, it's an opportunity for an exchange, really. I don't know if that exists.
It is, and it's something we thought about before, but they're a different age group and they've got a different standard to meet. They don't want to accept responsibility for trying to supervise.
Even if a local would sit and watch them work, they might get inspired.
No.
No, their rule is they don't work that way. And it would be a long process, even if you had to mingle them. It still would be a long process because you would have to get their approval. And then you would have to go probably by their guidelines. All that would have to fit. So if they came in this summer and I just, hey, y'all go together, it wouldn't work.
No, it'd take more than that.
The only time we did do it, and it was allowed, and in fact, I talked to a supervisor in Minnesota, was the time that we did Hall Park. Because of the Ox Creek thing was coming up, they did work together to remove the debris that they could and leaves. And that was the only time that I know of that they worked together. Other than that,
Just a dream.
yeah, it's good. It's good.
And we came close to having a good cooperative year before last, because we had the small amount of money that comes from CDBG for the younger kids. The Community Action Agency gave us $75,000 that we used to hire some older kids that we used to try and help supervise them. And that year, Michigan Works worked with us and gave us a number of older youth that also helped to supervise. And so that was really working good. But last year, all we had was just a small group of about 25 kids that we were able to do. And we just do the best that we can for it to make it both a work learning experience and also an opportunity for some of these kids to make a little money to help buy their clothes and things and help them going back to school.
Thank you. We're gonna go ahead and move on to public comments.
Well, I'll comment.
Okay,
First of all, I really appreciate the program that I see every summer with the kids coming here. I'm always downtown. My office is downtown. I love for it to be nice where I live at and where I work at. So I really do appreciate that. If you guys need any help with any of the programs, I'm available. I'm a local entrepreneur, so I'm always here. But my heart is in Benton Harbor. So if you guys have any programs that you think that you that I could be a part of. I am one of those people. I am a supervisor. I am not afraid of children. I do not care how old they are. My son is 28. He graduated with his master's from Andrew. My youngest son is at Eastern right now, doing in his freshman year. You know what I'm saying? I know how to raise some kids. I'm not afraid of kids. I'm the instructor. You know what I'm saying? When I'm in charge. And I'm not, and another thing is too, I'm not an outsider, but I'm not from Benton Harbor. You know what I'm saying? The kids tend to, the people that they deal with all the time, they kind of don't take them serious sometimes. I'm also, I do yoga and things like that and meditation and stuff like that. And I really am really great at reverse psychology for kids. Okay, so, I was telling Alex that if you guys need me for any of those types of things, that I'm here for that. I'm all about the health of the city. So if the city needs some help, and it is in reference to health and wellness, and that may be a lot of things. Even the summer program to me is a wellness program to me, if they go hand in hand. So just if you guys want anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. I do this for a living. So, conversation is fine. But I would love to work with whoever is trying to help the kids, because I feel like, we have to concentrate on youth. We have to. So that's my comment.
Are there any, Commissioner Kennard?
Yes, the Green Initiative is very important to me. My background is horticulture. I'm a graduate of Andrews University. I ran my floral shop. And also, since I retired from the school system, I worked 26 years with the agri-science program, especially the special needs children. And I love Benton Harbor. That's why I put as much energy in. And I didn't make any money off of it, just come in and see the need. But I want to see Benton Harbor come to what I once saw it as a girl. I'm 80 now. So driving down through here was the most beautiful sight to see the theaters there, the armory with the lights flashing, and just beautiful scene going up Main Street. I love Benton Harbor. That's why I'm still with the cane, still working, trying to pull things together. I started Fresh Start Children's Garden to teach children more about eating healthy as an organic garden. And this will be our 18th year that we're going into. And I'd like to do a presentation also, because I'd like to also, with the next step in it, teach our children about beautifying. Just like they're talking about native plants to Benton Harbor, I'd like to teach them the scientific names of the plants, those that are brassicas that take up toxins from the soil, things of that sort. There's a whole lot of information in the horticultural arena, and we need to sort of pass it on, because holding on to it ourselves, we're gonna be gone, and then that's a loss. So I'm trying to gather with the group that's here and teach the young people about landscaping and the grading of the soil and runoff, so you won't have a wet basement and things of that sort. I have that background for landscaping also. So I don't want to just take this with me. I'm trying to get the children to gravitate to this. And those that like it, get involved. Those that might not like it, it could be a stepping stone to getting where they need to go. So that's my area as to what I want to do for Benton Harbor. Thank you.
Anyone else? I think I saw Mr. Rainbird.
Economic development side of things, visually improving our city, making it obvious to anybody that's interested in joining us that we're trying our best, and it shows in many ways that we are, in many ways it shows that we aren't. So it's spring, I think it's a good time to make big strides in that direction of cleaning the gutters and doing more or less the obvious. But corner of Wall Street, we've got a sign that's there for future development. I don't know when the groundbreaking is going to be, but the sign was kind of coming down. And I stapled it back up, but just attention to little things make a big difference in my eye, they do. A gutter that was rebuilt there last year, has still got rubble that maybe came out of the gutter that's laying alongside, along with fresh concrete that was just left there. More or less an incomplete job, which is quite frequent also here. Main Street as well as the entry corridors, Pipestone, we know what they are. We can't, everywhere needs attention, but we have to prioritize. So Main Street, main corridors, focus. Parks, I heard mention of Gene Clock getting some attention before the PGA. It needs a lot, I think, and I hope it gets it. And if it isn't able to get bathrooms that are functional before summer kickoff, porta potties in good shape and located well would be, I think, essential. If we're not gonna provide services like that, we should make the parking free. So come at your own risk and go when you have to go, but go home, I guess. I hope that progress can be made there. Union Park, that's the first park of the season. There's an Easter egg hunt this Saturday. I've gone by there a few times to try to see the condition, and there's room for improvement there. I parked near a limb that's been hanging from a tree since the same wind that blew off the roof at Gene Clock Park. I thought I parked far enough away, but I really wasn't thinking of the limb coming down while I was there. But I did my kind of walk around the park, and as I came back to get in my car, I just kind of touched the limb. It came crashing down, and then it rolled into my car. It's probably totaled, even though it's, it's not a new car. Doesn't take a whole lot to total it. I am glad that a child wasn't hurt by that. The exposure has been from August until now, until last Saturday. The exposure is less now, but I'm gonna be more serious about things, and I really pay a lot of attention to hazards and risks and liabilities. And I've raised my flag, that particular limb, probably 6 or 8 times through reported concern channels, and then other times in other venues, but no action. And that is not an effective functioning city. So I hope we can make big improvements there. We got ways to go.
Thank
Thank
you. Is there anyone else before we move to adjourn the meeting? No? Mr. Lewis?
Just one item I'd like to mention. We are and will be bringing back to the commission in the very near future a plan. Harbor Shores is working with the Emerald Flats facility there. Been working on a plan for a park that would circle around the building. First on the side toward Ship Canal over to the building, and then along the riverfront in front. They have a grant already for about half of the amount of the cost. It's estimated to run about $2 million. They're looking at getting a contribution from Darien County, one from Whirlpool, and they'll be looking for a contribution from us to put this park in. It looks to be a beautiful parks design that would be a significant benefit to the city. And I will be coming back a little later with some additional information on that, and ultimately a resolution to participate in.
All right, thank you. So if there's no more public comments, we're gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting or move to adjourn.
Approved.
Thank you for that, your comment.
Thank you.
And you